Introduction. In this video we do a 14-day slinging safari to Port Nolloth and back. We sling from Wonderboom airport to Hartzhoogte hunting lodge, to Dundi lodge at Augrabies waterfalls and then to Alexander Bay. We drive a rental car to Oranjemund in Namibia and to Port Nolloth where we stay a couple of days. We then sling again to Springbok and drive to a keep in Kammieskroon. We then sling further to Kakamas and Eagle Flying Academy, where we drive to Hartswater and Kempdorp and Christiana. We then sling back to Wonderboom. In this video we only address the overhead planning for and execution of such a long flying safari, with some tips, our preferences, our general aviation and sling tidbits of information. Each of the legs we slinged is addressed in a separate video with reviews of the available facilities at each stopover. Planning for this trip started in about August, with us looking for a place to fly to for Christmas. The previous couple of years we did short flying trips to a single inland lodge for Christmas. These are presented in other videos. We decided this year we want to be at the sea. General aviation tidbits, weather. During the summer months in our part of the country, we have to be very aware of thunderstorms. The more eastward you go, the more unpredictable the weather becomes during December, with continuous possibility of thunder and rain and low cloud formations over the mountains of the escarpment. The more westward you go, the less chance of rain and thunderstorms, but with high probability of mist right at the coast. We decided to take our chances westward for late December, even though the westward sea is 3 times as far from us as to the east, facing new challenges over very arid and sparsely populated country. We saw the closest seaside holiday resort on the west coast is Port Nolloth. It happens to have a runway. Reviews of the town look positive and we decided to make that our destination. We found some suitable hotel accommodation and made a provisional booking for a couple of days. On further inspection of the safety of the airplane at the Salt Pan airfield for this duration, a simple plan suddenly became much more involved. The airplane could not be left there for a couple of days. Alternative plans had to be made, and although a hangar could be booked at the nice long asphalt runway at Kleinzee, no rental car could be organised, even by some of the locals. Further afield we could land at Springbok, Alexander Bay or Oranjemund. After much investigation, numerous emails and telephone calls, we eventually got approval from the private mining company owning the Alexander Bay airfield to land and moor there, and we could rent a car from Europcar in Oranjemund with a pickup at Alexander Bay. Since we had to drop off the rental car agent Sophia back in Oranjemund, we decided to extend our safari with another day and sleep over one night in Oranjemund. We also love it when a plan comes together. Since we already investigated Springbok, we decided to make it part of our return journey, and we investigated and booked 2 nights accommodation and a rental car there. A visit to Augrabies Falls, about a 4.5-hour flight away from Wonderboom, has been on our bucket list for many years, so it was an obvious destination on our way there. With Dundi Lodge having its own private airfield, it became a logical accommodation and the booking was made. With these main destinations pinned down, the main planning parameters became fuel endurance and trip length. Some Sling specific tidbits. Completely full tanks on the Sling 2 contain slightly more than 150 litres, and properly trimmed at the higher flight levels, it runs at about 15 litres per hour, at about 105 knots true airspeed under full load. Under these absolute ideal conditions, it thus provides a total potential endurance of about 10 hours and a range of about 1000 nautical miles, about 1800 kilometers, a feat not achieved by many light aircraft. Even with a full 45-minute legal reserve requirement, provision for taxiing and climbing at 20 litres per hour, no refueling stops were really required for the approximate 6.5 hours travel from Wonderboom to Alexander Bay, where we could refuel ourselves with mogas from local car petrol stations, using our own plastic jerry can transported in the back of the Sling. Getting the picture why the Sling is such an amazing airplane for these type of missions. Our preferences. The rest of the planning therefore evolved much more around our own preferences and personal minimas than the Sling's endurance or refueling requirements. It seldom is a major planning factor with a Sling, whereas with most older AFCAS fuel general aviation airplanes in South Africa, it is the most important factor. Even though we have done a number of 3-hour flights before to Margate and on our African safari in 2015, we prefer flight legs of about 2 hours, with a margin of perhaps another half an hour. Our personal minimum preference regarding fuel on a Sling is at least 2-hour reserves and substantial refueling even with AFCAS, wherever we get a simple or easy opportunity to do so. Availability of easy transport and meals also play a lesser role in our final planning. With the 2-hour planning preference, our first and last destinations would therefore be quite close to each other and probably easily interchangeable. The transport and meal availability influenced the final decision, and we selected Hartshoogte Hunting Lodge on our way there and Eagles Flight Academy on our way back. Both have runways on the property with self-catering chalets, but we could get a car at Eagles to go to the nearby towns for a meal. Kakamas split the Sling's 4-hour flight time from Springbok to Eagles Flight Academy nicely into 2 almost equal parts of 2 hours each. It had a municipal airfield which is excellently maintained and run by the local pilots. Vergelegen lodge would fetch us at the airfield and they won our patronage. All this planning was concluded with deposits paid more than 2 months in advance. What made this trip also quite interesting from a planning perspective was search and rescue in case of an emergency. General aviation tidbit. In South Africa, you are legally required to file a flight plan with the navigational authorities, ATNS, if you fly from a manned airport to another manned airport, or if you cross over an international border. If one of your airfields is unmanned, you are not legally obliged, but you can still file a flight plan if you so wish. The reason you may want to do this is to alleviate your in-flight communication requirements in controlled or information airspaces, or to have search and rescue activated. Strict rules then applied for takeoff times, search and rescue cancellation, and a number of other things when flying with a flight plan. In the end, the final activation of the plan and cancellation, search and rescue must be done telephonically to the control center or via radio communication with controlled or information airspace controllers. With the South African weather patterns and sparse cell phone or data reception in low populated areas, one is never sure whether you will be flying high enough for radio communications with an airspace controller along your whole route, or will have cell phone reception at your destination on your cellular network. This makes the activation and cancellation slightly more unsure from unmanned airstrips. Furthermore, when an emergency is expected due to non-cancellation of a search and rescue request on a flight plan, the police is normally requested to go and verify if the particular airplane is parked at its destination or its alternative airfield specified on the flight plan. If your destination is at a remote lodge, the police may take hours to gain access to the airfield on the property. For these simple practical reasons, I therefore very seldom file flight plans except when legally required to do so. We would be flying through about 4 airspaces and huge arid farming areas, for us totally new and unknown. Even though we investigated the cellular coverage maps for our planned flight paths, there remained a very high degree of uncertainty as to how much cellular reception and radio communication to airspace controllers we would have on our route and at our destinations. We therefore spent a lot of time to set up our own search and rescue services with our brother Hilton and our friend Unica. We provide them with detailed planning on planned flight routes, altitudes, fuel endurance, alternative fuels, various contact details at the destinations, and detailed procedures on how to trigger prompt formal research and rescue operations in case of an emergency. We also had a separate special WhatsApp group where we could share our progress and flight statistics. All that remained was to pray that the weather will fit perfectly into our slinging plans, and then checking the weather and doing final confirmation closer to the time. Closer to the time, the longer term weather forecast indicated a huge low pressure system over the whole intended flight path, with resultant unpredictability. Thunderstorms were also forecasted much further to the west than would normally be expected for that time of the year. Fortunately, closer to the time, the pressure increased and became more consistent and predictable. In getting there, the WhatsApp group worked very well, and previously recorded messages, sometimes containing onboard screenshots of our flight statistics and positions, went through whenever we got a blip of a cell phone reception, flying in the vicinity of a bigger town. A tip to long distance touring general aviation pilots. In many areas in South Africa, you get occasional cell phone and thus data reception up to flight level 9.5. This is very convenient if you do not have a satellite data link yet, for onboard updates to weather observations such as METAR, satellite and radar, both on the Aviation weather website, on your smartphone, or in the background in Easy Cockpit. In Easy Cockpit, you can just set the automated weather updates equal to or longer than your flight duration for automatic updates in the background. The rest of the daily flight details are shared in separate videos. Thank you, Father God, for the privilege of such an enjoyable and amazing experience. May the sharing inspire, entertain and educate other like-minded travelers to experience the same.